Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the United
of the
States
United States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
for
which it stands,
stands
one nation,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all. Roll call.
Hold on 1 second. Let me switch over there.
No problem.
Bache,
Here.
Philippos,
Here.
Harvey, here. Kenders excused. McLaren,
here.
Nogi,
Here.
Novacek,
Here.
Eulander.
Here.
I would like to have a moment of silence for Sandy Dahl, one of our board members who passed away December 30th, 2020. Thank you. I would briefly like to say a few words about Sandy. Sandy was just on our board for 1 year. She was our treasurer. She was on the negotiating committee. She was our VOTEC representative and on our wellness committee. Sandy had spent so much time on the school board, and she was on the most committees that we had. We could always count on Sandy. Her dedication to our kids was amazing. She was a great leader at her VOTEC. Sandy would always listen, take in information, and give her opinion. In her town of Harmony, if there was a mayor, Sandy was it. She was always about the community and our kids, always. We will miss her. There will never be another Mrs. Claus like her at our annual Harmony Christmas parade. May God bless Sandy, and our prayers continue to go out to her husband, Bill, and her entire family. Thank you.
God bless Sandy and family.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sarden. You can continue the meeting.
Okay, we have no student representatives this evening. Under superintendent's report, I do have a few congratulations. I want to do congratulations to the following students for being selected as students of the month at York High School. November, Gina Benacio, Riley Mance, Sarah Barigi, Walter Vanosky, and Christian Heller. In December, Cody Bojack, Jeffrey Toma, Matthew Heinbaugh, Savannah Wood, and Samantha McGee. And in January, Larry Hickson, Kylie Roebuck, Mason Lukey, Colton Taratko, and Savannah Mann. I also want to congratulate the following teachers for receiving Donors Choose grants. Jen Beerhalls, who received a grant for 6 feet apart kinder learners for $509, and that was for a document scanner and reader, a CD player, and a Bluetooth speaker. Casey Patrisco, who received 2 screens for teachers for $115. She received a monitor USB cord in order to use 2 monitors at once. I want to congratulate Erin Broadwater for fulfilling fabulous 4th graders' futures for $494, including classroom set of headphones and various sports balls for recess. I want to congratulate Janelle Petke for flexible learning opportunities for $357, for portable lap desks and a classroom set of headphones. And finally, Emily Menser, engaged in learning for $435.31, included a whiteboard and a document camera. I also want to send a special congratulations to Jen Beerhalls and the entire kindergarten team for receiving the United Way Kindergarten Readiness Grant in the amount of $6,000. So congratulations to all those teachers for their hard work and dedication and making sure they have extra resources within their classrooms. I do not have any informational items this evening. We do have 4 presentations. Our first presentation this evening is our audit presentation by Selenkowski Axelrod LLC. We have 2 gentlemen here this evening that are going to go through, and I will share my screen in a minute and pull up the agenda. But today we have with us George Jurcevich and Jared Ewing from Zelenkowski and Axelrod. So give me 1 second to share my screen. And then another second to pull up the agenda. Let me see. I just want to make sure. Yep, he's still on there. You're doing? Yeah. Hang on one second. Let me just make that just a little bit smaller. Okay, so the floor now, George and Jared, is yours. So I'm going to mute my mic and you can take over.
All right, guys. So my name is George Josevich. Can everybody hear me? Am I unmuted and everything?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a manager at ZA. And once again, I'm the person that performed the day-to-day duties for the audit for this year's financial statements. And so beginning just with the overall results of the audit. So the audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, as well as government auditing standards. So if you look at pages 1 through 3 of the audit report, if you have that in front of you, you'll find that we're expressing an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So in simpler terms, what that means is everything is presented just as it should be with no audit findings. And then on pages 4 through 12, you'll find the management's discussion and analysis, which basically is management's summary discussion of what occurred during the year, as well as any significant year-to-year differences. So the government-wide statements are then found on pages 13 through 14. The district reported total assets of about $31.6 million, deferred outflows of resources of about $7.2 million, total liabilities of $91.8 million, and total deferred inflows of resources of about $2.1 million. And then if you look at the very bottom of the page, you'll see that the district is reporting a net deficit of about $55 million. So moving on to page, I believe, 14, this is the statement of activities, which shows you the district's district-wide revenues and expenses. And so if we take a look at the third line from the bottom, we find the change in net position. So basically what this is saying is that for governmental activities, revenues exceeded expenditures by about $2 million. And for business type activities, revenues exceeded expenditures by almost $67,000 for a total increase in the district's net position of $2.1 million. So now if you look at page 15, this will begin the fund financial statements, which basically reports the operations of the district's individual funds. So first, we have the governmental funds, which are your general fund and your capital projects fund. Together, they had a combined total assets for about $8 million, total liabilities of about $4 million, deferred inflows of $2.3 million, and total fund balances of $1.6 million. And so the fund balance, again, similar to the net position on the government-wide statements, our fund balance is broken up into categories: non-spendable, restricted, and then we have an unassigned amount of about $1.1 million. Jumping to page 17, this is the statement of revenues and expenses and changes in fund balances for the governmental funds. So total revenues were about $34.1 million, and total expenditures were also about $34.1 million. And so as you can see, even after factoring in the other financing uses, the total governmental funds fund balance didn't really fluctuate much from year to year, only decreasing by about $49,000. Now, the remainder of the fund financial statements are comprised of the food service fund financials, which are on pages 19 through 21, and the fiduciary fund financial statements on pages 22 through 23. Then on pages 24 through 52, we have the notes to the financial statements. And there's a couple things here that I'd like to point out. The first is that the district adopted 2 new accounting standards this year, GASB 95 and GASB 84. So all GASB 95 does is push back the effective dates for most of the pending changes in accounting standards, due to COVID and, everyone working from home. I guess the GASB figured that we better push some of this stuff back. And so GASB 84 would have been included under that, but your business manager actually had he had everything ready for that standard anyway, so we went ahead and adopted it. And so what GASB 84 does is basically requires the district to report the revenues and expenses for custodial funds, as we refer to them, or as you know them as the student activity accounts. So if you want to take a look at that change, it'll be on page 23. And there was a prior period restatement that occurred due to this standard, which you can find information on in note 14 on page 52. The other thing in the notes that I wanted to point out was the subsequent event note, which is note 13, also on page 52. Basically, this note just explains what happened with COVID during the year and some potential financial risks that go along with it. Now, beginning on page 53, you'll find the required supplementary information. The first one here on page 53 is the budget versus actual comparison of the general fund, where total excess of revenues over expenditures is coming in at about $66,000 over budgeted amount. The remainder of the required supplementary information is basically comprised of schedules related to the district's pension and OPEB liabilities. So now I'd like to go ahead and move on to the single audit. There are two reports that are issued with the single audit. So one is issued in accordance with government auditing standards on internal control, and one is issued in accordance with uniform guidance on compliance, internal control, and also the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So these reports can be found on pages 3 through 7. And on both reports, we're reporting that there were no deficiencies in internal control and that the schedule of expenditures of federal awards is fairly stated in all material respects. So once again, we have no issues. If you flip to page 8 and 9 of the report, you'll find the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which is showing us all of the district's federal funding and the expenditures of that funding. But at the bottom of page 9, the total federal funding received was around 1.3 million, and the revenue recognized as well as the related expenditures were about 1.6 million. And so, in closing here, I'd like to thank, all of you, for allowing us to provide auditing services to the Yawk School District. It really is our pleasure. And I'd like to thank Jim as well as the business office staff once again. They really made this an easy process with addressing all of my requests in a timely manner. So I do thank you for that. That really makes it easy for us. And so at this time, I'd like to open it up. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they can think of, or if there's.
So how do you feel that the financial situation is here at Yawk? I mean, we went through that pretty quick. So what's the overall analysis of what our financial situation looks like?
The financial situation, I think, is very good at Yawk. I think you guys have a good internal control structure. Everyone's very knowledgeable about what they're doing and their duties, and everybody has everything in very good order.
How about in regards to the bonds and the refinancing of those? You guys look at that?
Did you want to touch on that at all, Jared? Is he here? I want to know about the refinancing of the bonds. The refinancing of the bonds, I can tell you, was recorded right by the book.
Jared is not on there. I don't know. We lost him.
Oh, okay. Well, I can tell you for sure that was all recorded.
Here, I'm going to let him back in. Let me hang on 1 second. Let me let him back in.
Okay.
Let me see. There he is. Mr. Ewing, the question was with regard to that George threw over your direction was with the question of the bonds and recording of bonds. Mrs. McLaren had a question on that with regard to our audit.
Okay, I did not hear the question. Can you repeat the question?
Sure, go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I was just asking if you saw anything about the refinancing of the bonds and the number of times they were refinanced and any issues with our district related to other districts on how many times we refinance?
No, we didn't see any issues with that. I mean, when there's a better rate out there, everyone jumps on it. That's key. When you can improve your cash flow, that's key. We didn't note any issues with that at all, no.
You find with your financial, with looking at these numbers, that is it just basically up to the district if they're looking for a better rate, or paying on principal or not paying on principal for a couple of years and getting that money up front? Any kind of information or insight that you could give on that?
As opposed to what other school districts do?
Yeah.
It's all over the place. A lot of times the financial advisors or the bond counsel will approach school districts and say, hey, we can get you a better rate. This will improve your cash flow. Sometimes you can improve your cash flow even by not paying principal for a couple of years. I've seen that on a couple bond issues where basically there was no principal or very little principal paid for a couple of years in a row. Same principal amount paid in total, but the interest rate was a lot less, and the payments were a lot less overall economic wise.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy, I think Mr. Myers typically goes over this with the bond counsel a couple times a year. Isn't that correct, Jim?
That is correct, Mr. Coppola.
Okay. So usually Mr. Myers is on top of any time it's time to refinance some of the bonds. If we can get a better rate, then typically that's when he advises the board that it's time to refinance, and then we could use that cash back either to building improvements or to other items in the district.
I just will note that, that is going to be discussion we're going to have later on in this meeting about some bonds that are callable April 1st. But the one that the next time the district has the ability to look at some refunding, I believe it's October of 2022 is when the bonds become callable, and that's when they'll be reviewed.
Any other questions for the auditors this evening? Okay, well, Jared and George, we appreciate your time and efforts for the audit. Make note that the audit will be posted on our district website, I believe tomorrow morning, so as required. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time and for your efforts.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. And just real quick, just remember, if anyone has any questions about anything, they can always email us, and we can try our best to get you the answer. So
Sounds good. Thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Okay, next up this evening, we have two gentlemen here from KLH to talk about a project that we started looking into towards the end of last year for hopes of getting it done this upcoming summer and bidding here coming up here in the spring. With us today, we have John Mowry and Jeff Marsink from KLH, who were authorized to put together our wastewater treatment facility over at the middle school. John and Jeff, I'm going to mute myself and give you the opportunity to kind of take over the meeting. I do have up on the screen the documents that you sent, so as you want me to scroll through them, I am happy to do that.
Perfect, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
I do believe.
Yes, John.
I'm John Mowry from KLH Engineers. I'm the president of the firm. With me tonight, I have Jeff Marsink, who is one of our lead design engineers. Jeff worked on the design of this project, and he'll be actually doing a lot of the nitty-gritty presentation tonight. Just as an overview, as you know, many of you know, you have a wastewater facility that's at the middle school that you guys authorized us probably several years ago, 5 years ago, to do an evaluation of the facility. We submitted that report, and you guys authorized us, based on that report, to go ahead and move forward with making renovations to the facility. So as we got into the design, it became apparent early that early on in the process that it was going to be actually more cost effective for the district to actually go ahead and replace the facility totally, as opposed to trying to patch it and and try to get more life out of it. And the main reason for that is there's no way to actually drain that tank and do a subsurface inspection. We had our geotechnical or our structural engineer look at it, and there's a really high chance that if you would drain that tank, since it's an old steel tank, that it could collapse on itself and cause a catastrophic failure while you were trying to do the inspection. So based on what we saw along the surface, we assumed that same type of deterioration was going on below the surface. So it makes sense to go ahead and replace it in total. Any new facility that you build like this will have a useful life of probably 40, 50 years. So it's definitely more cost effective. If you'd have patched the old existing plant, you probably would have got maybe 5 years out of it tops. So with that overview, I will let Jeff take over, and he'll Dr. Sarden, he'll let you know what, how to scroll or when to scroll through, and I'll let Jeff go through the design of where we are. We're getting close to wrapping it up. We still have to do some back checking of the design with the manufacturer, and then we'll be ready to go out to bid per the board's direction. So with that, Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, John. So as John said, I'll kind of give a brief overview here, and I can definitely get into more. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay. I can definitely get into much more detail here, but I know you have some other agenda items here tonight. So if I'm going too fast on anything, or if there's any questions, by all means, just jump in and let me know what you got. So looking at the drawing set, just this first sheet, just kind of the title sheet. This is getting ready for the Part 2 permit submission. So with DEP, anytime that we're either changing the process at the plant or completing a large upgrade as we are, DEP will need to review those plans. So we do have the plan set, and then I have a separate permit application package that I can review with Dr. Sardon and Jim at a later time before we submit that permit. Next sheet, please. So this just kind of shows some of the legend as far as like the symbols that we utilize. For those that may not be as familiar with construction projects or specifically LH drawings, these are just some of the symbols that we use. And as you kind of look through our drawings, any of the light gray items with mixed case text, those are all of the existing facilities. Anything that is dark bold with all caps text is all proposed facilities. So that kind of helps, just when you open up a sheet, you can kind of see that depiction a little bit better. Next one. So this sheet shows the existing facility. So you do have, you can see the fenced-in area, kind of the line with the X's around it. So you have a one-story building which houses some of the blowers and the aeration blowers, and some of your equipment is housed in there. And then you have to the left side of the drawing, you have this circle. That is the influent manhole right there. That then dumps into your bar screen, which will take out any of the heavy debris, like any branches or anything that may get in from the roadways. That then dumps into the aeration tank. All of the most of the heavy solids will fall out in the aeration tank. Air is pumped in different cycles to help with settling and to help with some of the treatment process. The next smaller tank right there is the clarifier tank, and that's where all of the remaining sludge and solids will fall out before finally going over to the contact disinfection and then out of the outfall down to the river or the stream. So on this, we are actually, as John said, we are proposing to replace the entire plant. So all of these gray items, that is the demolition hatch. So everything will be removed, and you can see that the right side fence will be moved. And on the next sheet, you'll see that we are proposing to extend that out a little bit farther for the new facilities. Yep, next drawing, please. So this is the proposed site. As you can see, most of the fence line remains as is. We wanted to keep everything in your existing facilities. But as I said on the last sheet, we are extending the fence line to the right side just to be able to house some of those new tanks. So back to the left side, your influent manhole will remain as is. We are proposing a new bar rack. The flow will then kind of route around the new 5 tanks at the top of the drawing over to like where we call out the sludge holding tank, flow equalization, your new aeration tank, and your new clarifier tank. So the existing process is essentially the same as the proposed process. The tanks are just broken out and sized a little bit differently. And we are including a flow equalization tank. That would just help if you get any sort of surge in flow. Since this is, a school district, most of your flows are coming within a shorter duration, as opposed to a standard treatment plant that would receive flows over a 24-hour period. Most of your flows are going to be received over an 8-hour period. So we are including the flow EQ or equalization tank to help offset those flows. That helps keep some of the other tanks smaller and your equipment costs down. So the new aeration tanks will replace the old, and the new clarifier will replace the old clarifier. And then if you see down from that final clarifier tank, there's that 8-inch PVC pipe that dumps into a manhole. The new disinfection that we're proposing is ultraviolet UV disinfection, as opposed to the existing chlorine contact that you have now. As John said, we are still finalizing a couple small details with the manufacturer of this package plant. And the UV disinfection is one that I want to go over in a little bit more detail with them. Some of the process that they use, they actually used a post aeration as well as the standard aeration for the treatment process. So I'd like to kind of separate that out and just see what their thoughts are on that piece. On to the next drawing. So this one shows a little bit better detail of the proposed tanks. Again, these are the same tanks we were just looking at, but it shows all the internal workings, all of the piping, pumps, aeration diffusers, and things like that. And again, the flow will come into that flow equalization basin, and then it will run through the aeration and the clarifiers, the sludge holding, any of the solids that fall out of the clarifier will be pumped to the sludge holding tank, and then that's the solids that are then hauled off site by the sludge hauler. The bottom of this sheet just shows the section views running through this tank. So you can see the tanks are approximately 12 foot deep. We'll then have additional excavation for stone bedding to go underneath of those tanks. All of the tanks are precast concrete. So they'll essentially be brought on site, pre-plumbed, pre-built, and then the contractor that we award the contract to will just do some of the final tie-ins as far as piping in between the tanks and piping from your blower building, running the new air piping through the site. Then your existing plant will all be completely removed. The tank will be removed from the ground, backfilled with the material that we removed from the new excavation, and that will all be seeded and we'll be back to lawn restoration. I think we have one or two more drawings. This again just shows some of the sections and some better detail of each of the tanks. Including on the bottom left of the drawing, that little bar screen. That's where the flow first comes into the plant. And one more drawing. Okay, that was the last of the drawings then. So unless there's any questions on the process or what we're proposing, then we can move on to some of the costs, which I think is usually the more important item to you guys.
Jeff, I have a question. You're using JWC Environmental for the equipment? Muffin Monster?
This is all MAC, but we will leave the bidding open to any package treatment plant supplier.
Okay.
But as far as the Muffin Monster that you're familiar with, that's not what we're going to be using here. Those are typically an automatic piece of equipment. This is just simply a bar rack with 1/2-inch spacing. So there's just going to be bars oriented, vertically and horizontally, just to trap any of the heavy debris that we wouldn't want to be sending through the plant.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Any other questions on the process?
I'm not too versed on this, but I'm assuming that you look at the amount of students that we have in the building and to make sure that this is all appropriate size regarding how many students are in the building, et cetera.
Yes, exactly. So into the cost estimate here, total bottom line, we're looking at about $260,000. And that does include a 10% contingency of almost $24,000. And as John said, in our opinion, this is the best option for you moving forward. If we would try to do any patchwork on the existing tank, I did meet with a contractor out on site, and they just had concerns that once you start trying to draw the tank down, like John said, one, either the tank can collapse on itself, and they're just not entirely sure what's going on below the water line to be able to give me a firm cost of what we would be getting into to do any sort of patchwork on the tank. With this cost, I know that's a little bit higher than what you were anticipating from our budgetary report, but as John said, this gives you approximately a 40 to 50-year design life for one project to be done.
How old is the system that's in there now? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm based on looking at what's there, it's probably better than 30 years old.
Yeah, okay.
Nancy, I thought we were under DEP mandate for a long time to get this system back, all the way back from 2010, that they started looking into changing this out. So, and I believe DEP is contacted the district many times over the years. And I don't know about patchwork even being a possibility.
I wouldn't think that it would be. I mean, I agree that this is long overdue of needing repair. Anytime you start digging and you're looking at all these tanks, I mean, it's not going to be something that's going to be cheap, but it's definitely something that needs to be done. And I do believe that we were notified several times regarding this needing to be upgraded.
Yeah, I believe it's.
I think we budgeted some, I mean, we have budgeted some money for a project cost, correct, Jim, for knowing this was going to be part of something that we were going to be needing to do.
That's correct. There's part of the construction fund money that we had set aside for improvement.
Jim, how much over from what we budgeted to this estimate are we looking at?
So to give you an idea, and this is part of my updated construction fund report. When we had budgeted or planned this out before, we were looking at roughly 190,000 for this project. But as KLH had brought up through this discussion, it's better to replace the entire tank and do it. The cost savings is do the whole thing at one time. As you can see from their estimate, we're looking at 261,000. For the public and for the board, the construction fund report that's part of this board packet has $300,334 in it. I have some outstanding invoices for some professional services of about $13,700. So as we move forward from today, that balance will be roughly about $286,000. So I say that because I think we have to reserve the balance of that account to address this project here, whereas some prior discussions, we had talked about some other district projects to come out of this construction fund. I would put those on hold until this project is 100% complete before we look at any other project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Yeah, this is John Mowry. Just to kind of reiterate, I think what was said before, you guys are correct. I think when the district retained us several years ago, that was one of the reasons why we were brought in. I think that you did have many non-compliant discharge violations with the facility. We were able to get it into compliance, but just the sheer age of the plant now, it's starting to deteriorate beyond its useful life.
John, my only question to you, since you all been working on this project, and I think I've asked this question, why didn't we look at any type of PennVest, DEP, or RUS, Rural Utility Service type of grants to do these small type sewage projects, which are available out there, since this has been ongoing since 2010?
That's actually a really good question. We've, based on what we've seen with actually some of our bigger municipal projects that are in areas where there's CSOs in actually environmental non-compliance. Believe it or not, those communities are not getting grant money. So we know you're kind of under the, I don't want to say under the gun, but you are under a time frame to get this project done. I mean, chances are you're not going to get grant funding, but I mean, the reality is if you want to proceed with PennVest, you still could do that. To get the PennVest, you have to have design 100% complete and all your permits in hand. So if the district decided that they wanted to go down that road, to try to get a loan or grant component, you could still do that. Chances are, though, and I know Mr. Matt is on this call as well, and him and I represent a bunch of municipal authorities together. I mean, you can chime in as well. That competition for that grant money is extremely tight. I'm not saying that you don't need it, but they're typically giving that money to really distressed communities.
Okay, John, if we couldn't go PennVest or our Rural Utilities, RUS, what about going through the county through, Community Economic Development Grant or something like that there through Westmoreland County?
I think that the largest grant that you could get for like a block grant, and Jeff, you've done a bunch of these for us. There's a limit to it, and you actually there's a low to moderate income component to that I don't believe that you'll fall under.
Okay, so you're talking CDB, Community Block Grant Program through the county.
Right.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions.
So John and Jeff, next steps in the process, can you explain those, please?
Absolutely. So I know that, to construct a project for the district, ideally, it would need to happen in the summertime when school's out and flows are low. So we would be looking to award a contract probably sometime in late spring. Kind of backing up from there, we'd probably have it out on the street for about a month. The biggest thing is we need to get the Part 2 permit submission in, and we will do that once the district says, okay, yeah, we're comfortable with the cost estimate, we're comfortable with where we're at. We'll submit for a Part 2 permit. Quite frankly, everyone, that's the wild card. We've had DEP turnaround Part 2 permits in a couple months. We've had them take as long as, a year. What we will do, though, is we will quarterback this through the DEP to, letting them know that, we do have an issue. They're well aware of your facility from the past. And we'll let them know that we're trying to get this constructed in the summertime, and hopefully they'll get us a Part 2 permit relatively quickly. So I guess, Dr. Sard, what we're looking for is once the district's comfortable with where we are, probably just need authorization to submit the Part 2 permit. And then once we get the Part 2 permit, we could, obviously have another meeting with the district and, be ready to go out to bid if that's what you guys would want to do.
So if the board, Gary, if the board is comfortable this evening with where we are with this project, it would probably make sense to do a motion to approve moving forward tonight. I don't know if anybody with the board is for or against that, but I think for time's sake, we probably need to do that. So Gary, could you have some motion under new business this evening to accomplish that if the board is willing and able?
That's fine. Mr. Mowry?
Yes, sir.
Specifics that you need in the motion for any reason for DEP?
No, sir.
So it would just be a motion to authorize KLH engineers to proceed with the wastewater project for the middle school. Would be sufficient? Thank you.
And when you do these numbers and you come up with these prices, can you just tell me where you go and look that gives you the price of the excavation, the stone bedding? Is it all because we're a school district, there's pricing that you use?
So a lot of the cost, we have a database that we keep in our office on projects that we've done of similar size and similar scope. And that's where we pull a lot of, let's just say, the demolition, excavation. When it gets into the equipment, we actually get quotes from the manufacturers. And for things like site piping and site fencing, like I said, they're just based off of historical costs that we typically see.
Okay.
I
I guess my question is, I just want to make sure that we're getting the best price that we can for our project.
This actually will go out to bid, and the bids will come back, and you guys will approve final bids and awards and costs once those bids are awarded.
It'll still go out. Okay. This
This
is
is
just a ballpark. Okay.
I have a question in regards to the contingency, construction contingency. So that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have to pay that, because that's just money set aside to cover any unexpected costs, correct?
Correct.
So
That's
that,
correct.
Nancy, could lower 23,780 because that's a construction contingency.
Yeah.
And they are going to bid out the project. So I'm guessing they're giving us worst case scenario. And like I said, they are putting in that 10% construction contingency there as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for John or Jeff? Okay, gentlemen. Well, thank you for joining us this evening and for presenting that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thank you.
Next up, we have our budget performance report and construction fund report by Mr. Byer.
Thank you. I touched on the construction fund report. Does anybody have any follow-up questions in regards to that? Again, the 12/31 report shows $300,334. And after some outstanding invoices, which will be paid in January here, we're looking at a balance of $286,531 to apply towards the project that the two gentlemen have just reviewed.
Jim, didn't you say that we have deadlines on timeframes of when to spend this money in the construction fund?
Yes.
Previous bond finances, et cetera?
Yeah, the money you're looking at here, when you refinance, you have 3 years to spend it. The money that you're looking at under this project, we have until February of 2022, I believe.
Till when?
February of 2022.
What about the previous bonds that were financed? Where'd that money go?
The bulk of that, I believe, went to the high school roofing project.
The high school what?
The roofing projects in the
roofing
district.
project at the high school, at the throughout the district.
Okay.
So on the screen is the performance report revenue up until December. I will say this is on a cash basis, and based on the cash, our collections are pretty solid these days. Our current collection is down $414,000. I'm not getting alarmed by that until I probably will report to you our final real estate tax collections report for the year. They are due from our 7 municipalities on January 15th, and I'm still waiting for a few of those to come in, but I will give you a final tax collection report on the real estate. But our overall tax collections as of December 30th are as anticipated or as trend. When we last reviewed this back in the November meeting, I was a little concerned about the amount of money that was due from the state revenues. And given the state now had passed the balance of the budget for the rest of this fiscal year, we did get that money in December, and they are now up to date with their funding. So from the revenue end, on a cash basis, we have collected just over $20 million, and that's common for this time. I will touch base on the tax collections here in a minute. On the expense end, again, okay, you're here. As you can see, most line items are underspent right now. Again, this is on a cash basis that you're looking at. Our accruals for salary and benefits, you can see below, are typically about $1.5 million and $687,000 for benefits. That is currently a little bit low, and again, it's because we're currently negotiating a contract that hasn't been applied towards our current expenses. But again, given the model of our instruction, some of our spending is down, particularly with transportation, for example, and some other line items. In regards to professional services, please keep in mind, again, this is a cash basis and not a accrual basis. And I am waiting for invoices from November and December from certain providers that I've yet to receive or apply towards this report. I will say to the board, one of my concerns moving forward with our charter school expense. When we visited this back in October, I felt that we were trending a little bit right where we had budgeted. But since October, we've had 6 additional enrollments into charter school. Not all of them from students at Dock School District. Keep in mind, if they're at a private or parochial school and they choose to go to charter school, that now becomes an expense to the district. As I do my projection based on our current enrollments, I think our charter school expense line item is probably going to be a little over $100,000 more than what was budgeted. Something I look at on a monthly basis, try to track when kids go into charter school, how long they stay, because we've had a number of students that have enrolled for 30 or 40 days and then returned back to the district. I just want to let the board aware that I am a little concerned about our charter school expense, and that's something we are monitoring. I can tell you, and Dr. Sardi can speak to this, we do try to reach out to the families, and we try to figure out why they are leaving the district to go to charter school and try to bring them back. So,
Two of the other issues too with charter school expenses are, we've had over the course of the last 90 days, 2 students that are already in charter schools have been tested and made special education students, and the amount of tuition for regular education versus special education students is a difference of around $9,000 to $10,000. So we also have that happening as well, of which as a district we really don't have any control over.
Is that per student or total?
No, that's per student.
Thank you.
Per year. That's per year, right?
Per student per year, correct.
correct.
So what, just while we're on the subject, what, because I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there about charter schools, that they're free and this and that, but what is, in general, what is the cost? Like, if you put a cost on a student educated in the district and then one outside at a charter school or whatever, what is the difference there? What is the cost that we're looking at?
I don't have our tuition expense in front of me, and I apologize for that. But for regular students, the tuition for them, a regular ed student to go to charter schools, about $11,600. If you look at the tuition rate on the PD website for Yacht, I think we trend right around, I'm going to say 9.
I was going to say
So it's a-
95. So
It's a little bit more to send them to charter school. There is misconception that charter schools are free. They are not free. It ultimately reduces the amount of spending available to your school district. The common example I give, and these are just basic numbers, is if I have a 5th grade class that has 25 students in that class, and the cost for that class is $250,000, and that includes your teacher, your supplies, everything. And I'm just making these numbers up for illustration purposes. 25 students, $250,000. If one student leaves that classroom, I now have 24 students, but the cost for that classroom has now gone up to $261,000 because my fixed cost with the teacher and the benefits and the supplies in that classroom doesn't change, but the tuition for charter schools follows the student. And now that 11,000 follows that student to whatever charter school exit they choose. So now it has actually cost us more for that classroom for those 25 students. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that?
No, thank you.
Thank you. You want to go down? Something new I added to the budget performance report this month. There's a lot of talk out there about CARES grant or stimulus funds. So I want to communicate to the board and I want to communicate to the public. This is the amount of additional COVID CARES stimulus money that the district has received or has been committed to the district so far. The biggest word of caution I put out when you see money like this is these dollar amounts just can't be plugged into your budget and just can't be spent on anything that, quite frankly, the district seems necessary. Every one of these grants have guidelines of what you can spend money on. And one of the biggest things that you have to caution yourself is whatever you choose to spend this money on, it should be somewhat related to a one-time expense. Because when this money goes away, you don't want a gap left in your budget that you now have to make up. In other words, you don't want to add some type of a recurrent expense to this. The bulk of this money is strictly for the pandemic crisis, whether it's cleaning supplies or equipment for improvements for virtual teaching. Chromebooks you'll see on here a lot, some software licenses you'll see on here a lot. Something to get us through the pandemic and continue the education process for students and then also having the resources available for the teachers to reach out to the students. So I just wanted to make the public aware of it. I wanted to make the board aware of it. This is the type of money that we're looking at. Some of these grant applications have already been submitted. The largest one you'll see halfway down, it's ERISA 2 money of $1.19 million that was just awarded on Friday to us. that it actually can be spent out to September of 2023. And I will say, Pennsylvania Department of Education gave us some flexibility here to plan accordingly over the next 2 or 3 years to so-called recover from this pandemic and have the resources in place to continue education.
So going forward, this grant here, all the rest of the grants, the board has been told and is aware of where those come from. This newest set of grants here, we will do a meeting with the board to discuss where, those monies work best in order to make sure that we are scheduling and budgeting properly for what the future needs are of the district.
So did you say we were granted that? I'm having difficulty hearing what he's saying.
Yeah, we were granted this as of, these allocations actually came out last Friday. We weren't given the money yet. You actually have until December 31st of this year to submit that grant of what you're spending the money on. So we will get together with the board and have discussions surrounding where are we allowed to spend this money? Where does it make sense to spend this money?
Okay.
So it was just announced Friday.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and then the final piece of the budget performance report is I just want to update the board on where our tax collections are as of December 31st. And again, one of the things we did do is we adjusted our budget for fear that our collections will be down. This top portion, the real estate tax collection, is what I referred to earlier. You'll see the number 85.27% is what we collected to date based on our county, our assessed values. Our budget number was somewhere around 91%. The tax collectors have until the end of the week to get reports in. So when I report back to you in February, I will report our final real estate tax collections, actual dollar amount that we received, what percent that was, and then what amount of our billed taxes were then turned over to the county for delinquent collection. So I will update this report and report that out in February. As far as the rest of the tax collections, they're pretty standard, pretty trending very well right now, actually. The only exception is the earned income tax piece. We did a snapshot of the full calendar year from April up until December. If you want to go over a little bit, we're trending just about 5% less than what we collected the year before. You can't, yeah, there. But the collections are down roughly about 5% from the 4.39% from the prior year, which equates to about $77,000. Does anybody have any questions on any of these reports?
And you expect you said you'll give us an update on that next month too. That should come up too, that earned income? Go back to that?
I don't expect the earned income to come up with collections in January, and here's why. I expect that more in February because a lot of places only pay taxes on a quarterly basis. And the quarter ended December 31st, and they have until the end of January to file a report, and then they'll make payments. And you'll see them show up in our books in February. So I think after the full February collection and what was reported out at our March board meeting, there's going to be more of a true snapshot of where we're really at. But again, as far as earned income collections, the district is typically collecting about 1.7 million a year, and that's what usually shows up on the audit. We budgeted 1.483, so we reduced that by a little over 100,000 to make up for the pandemic. So again, we're about 4.39% behind. We're about $77,000 behind. So we're trending pretty close to how we budgeted for this current year. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
One final presentation this month. Obviously, January is School Board Recognition Month. Every year, we try to do a special presentation for the school board as part of School Board Recognition Month. Being virtual, that has made that a little more challenging. We did, however, send each board member's house different things that some of our students in the district have made over the course of the last about month and a half, even during their virtual learning. There is a resolution that's put out by PSBA, and I do want to take a moment to kind of go through that to recognize our board members for their hard work and dedication to our school district and community. Obviously, the role of a locally elected school official has served the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and local communities in meeting the needs of the public since the passage of the Free School Act in 1834. And these local boards have discharged their responsibilities to public education in a manner which has placed public education at the forefront of our educational systems. These locally elected officials have distinguished themselves in their communities. This position is non-paid and a public service commitment. The contributions of these men and women should be recognized and appreciated by those who benefit from the workings of our public school system. So be resolved that the Board of Directors of PSBA proclaims the month of January as School Director Recognition Month in this Commonwealth, and resolve that this proclamation be communicated to all districts, school officials, and local communities in a planned program which brings visibility and awareness to the role of locally elected school officials to the citizenry of this Commonwealth. So being School Board Recognition Month, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the board members who give up their time and efforts for the benefit of the students and staff of the Yawk School District. So thank you, School Board, for your dedication. With that being said, that is all I have under Superintendent's Report, and we will move forward to Budget and Finance.
Under Budget and Finance, items: approve the board minutes, approve the treasurer's report for November 2020, approve the treasurer's report for December 2020, approve the resolution by the Yawk School District that any proposed tax rate for the 21-22 fiscal year will not exceed the index set by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, which is 4.1% for the Yawk School District. Item 5, approve the plan, document adoption agreement, plan administration agreement, and fee schedule establishing a deferred compensation plan for employees of Yawk School District Section 3, Attachment 5. I need a motion.
So moved. Nogi.
Motion by Mr. Nogi. A second?
Ulander.
Second by Ulander. Any board questions?
Yeah,
All
Jim,
in-
could you explain number 5?
Yes. Number 5 is just another tool for employees of the Yawk School District to put away money for retirement. Currently, the district offers a 403B plan. I've had a number of inquiries that they would like a different avenue besides 403B. In public perception, it's like a 401K. Plan of 457 plan is just another avenue for public workers in school districts to put money away for retirement. There is no cost to the district. It's just a voluntary retirement plan for the employees who choose to go that route.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approve the general fund bills for payment. I need a motion.
Novacek.
Motion by Novacek,
Second, Nogi.
second by Nogi. Any board questions?
I have one question. Can you tell me what's been going on with the gate to the student parking lot?
As
Needs
far
repair.
as it constantly needing repair,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it needs repaired based on how the concrete is and making sure it stands up. I mean, it's over the years, you know, we have to repair it every so often.
okay. Just making sure it wasn't vandalism.
No, it's just the settling back and forth. It's been like that for a while.
Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Beach,
No.
Harvey, yes. McLaren,
Yes.
Nogi,
Yes.
Novacek,
Yes.
Ulander,
Yes.
Philippos.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Secretary's report.
Executive sessions were held on the following dates: Thursday, January 14th, 2021 for personnel and litigation Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, before the meeting for personnel and litigation.
I need a motion to accept.
Ulander.
Motion by Ulander, a second.
McLaren,
Second by McLaren. Any board questions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Under professional employees, I need a motion to pass items 1 through 3.
Harvey,
Motion by Harvey, a second.
Nogi.
Second by Nogi. Any board questions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Under classified employees, I need a motion to accept items 1 and 2.
McLaren,
Motion by McLaren, a second.
Ulander.
Novacek.
Second by Ulander. Any board questions? All in
how long has
favor,
Marlene
aye.
worked in the district?
Pardon me?
I said I was just asking how long has Marlene worked in the district?
Since 1997.
Congratulations, Marlene.
Yep. Great job. Happy retirement. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Under athletic activity, approve the following individuals for the event workers. I need a motion.
McLaren,
Motion by McLaren, a second.
Novacek.
Second by Novacek. Any board questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under district operations, I need a motion to approve items 1 through 6.
Harvey,
Motion by Harvey, a second.
McLaren.
Motion by McLaren. Any board questions?
So I have one question. So in June, then, when would you anticipate graduation being?
So graduation, let me just pull the calendar up a second. So graduation based on this calendar, as of right now, would be held on the 3rd.
Okay. And we would start back on August
30th.
30th. Okay.
For students, teachers start the week before.
Yes. Another question I might have now that if we go back to school and next year, kids, do they all still keep that Chromebook?
They do.
So let me ask you this, then would we not have snow days then if the weather was bad, then they could do like other districts I see they.
Yes, we were approved, and I still have the snow makeup days in here to have them in here, but we are approved for flexible instructional days. We did submit that application and we did get approval for that. So we would be able to use flexible instructional days to cover any snow days, yes.
Is there a limit on how many of those you can use?
Yes, 5.
5? Okay. Thank you.
Any other board questions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Under item 7, motion to approve Bowen and Scattergood to provide bond counsel underwriting services for the Yawk School District.
Harvey,
Motion by Harvey, a second.
Ulander.
Second by Ulander. Any board questions?
Yes, I have some questions. Okay, so based on the flow sheet that we had regarding the bonds, we still are picking somebody that's, I mean, I'm just going by the spreadsheet based on financial backing. The one on here is the least amount of financial backing, correct?
If you
Look on the spreadsheet here.
the capitalization for for the firm, yes, they are the ones who
Okay, so I'm just asking the board, like, what are we looking to do to refinance these bonds? Are we looking to get the lower interest rate, or are we looking to get some quick cash? Like, because on what we're looking at here, the first 3 years, we are not paying anything on principal. It's just the interest, correct?
Are you asking me or are you asking the board?
I'm asking my voting constituents if we've looked at this and know what we're doing. It's not like this is like a $10 deal. This is millions of dollars. So I'm looking at what are we looking to do here? Again, are we looking to get the lower interest rate, or are we looking to get a quick amount of cash on these bonds, or on this bond that we're refinancing?
Well, I can tell you what Mr. Myers has told the board, that, you know, he typically meets with Bowen and Scattergood, and when the interest rates are lower, then they both recommend to the board that we should refinance at a lower interest rate. And I do believe the rates are considerably lower than where the last time they were financed previously. And I believe that will not only give the board a better interest rate, but it'll also give the board some cash to use for building improvements. Is that right, Mr. Myers?
That is correct.
Because we're not paying on any principal for the first 3 years of this bond.
I don't think
I
that's,
can't hear a word that you're saying, Jim. I'm sorry.
okay. I'm sorry. To answer your
Like, what are our fees associated with this bond?
to-
What are all the fees, and what do I have it to compare it to these other companies?
Okay.
I have no idea what I'm paying on the bond counsel, their underwriting.
Well,
How do I know it's good or bad? I don't have any numbers to compare it to.
let me do a little bit of review. Okay.
I know, but you reviewing, I mean, I don't mean to cut you off. You're reviewing, but I want to see it in black and white. We're voting on this, and I have nothing in black and white stating that tomorrow that those numbers are going to hold up. I have nothing.
Tonight's purpose is to assign an underwriter, which was discussed in executive session with a spreadsheet that Jim put together with all of those numbers on it.
Okay, but how do I know that another company isn't going to be giving me a better number?
Those are all companies we put out.
With this company, correct?
We put out a request for a proposal to get those numbers.
Let me review for the public. Let me review where I stand. I do want to answer your first question. We do pay a piece of the principal each year on every bond that we have. The first 3 years is not just interest. There is a piece of a principal paid on each of the bonds that we pay every year. And secondly, to put something in front of you today that will guarantee those numbers tomorrow, I will not do. And the reason why is because the market changes daily. So the numbers that I would put in front of you today would not hold tomorrow, given any type of a movement in the market. Just as a review, and a review for the full public here, based on our meetings in October and November, and what was presented by Bowen and Scattergood, the board had directed me to go out and do a request for qualifications for underwriter services. That qualification request went out in December, and in response, I got 5 responses back from underwriters and 1 response back from an independent financial advisor. From there, I put a summary sheet together on the questions that were asked to each of the underwriters in response to the proposal. When I went through and evaluated and made a recommendation to the school board, I also then had discussions with a number of these firms that had made a proposal. My first discussion was with the independent financial advisor to understand what their role was, and in particular, given the fee that they were going to charge for a $6 to $7 million bond issuance, would the district see any return to justify that fee? And in my discussions with them and in my discussions with bond counsel, I determined that for the fee that they were going to charge, it was not in the best interest of the district to spend that money, given the bond refunding that we were out there and given what the current market situation is. And the mere fact that we did a request for qualifications, we basically went out to the underwriters and basically said, put a proposal in front of us of what you would charge. So in essence, we did a little bit of what the independent financial advisors would have done anyways. And again, that's just my position on that. From there,
But this motion to approve whatever you're filling in is allowing this company then to do what?
that is allowing this company to put the official statement that goes out to all the investors, and that it's allowing the company to go out and sell these bonds at a lower interest rate. I can tell the public and I can tell you the board, the numbers that we ran back in this, November that was presented to the board, and the numbers I requested to get run today, the market improved and moved in favor of that. And the return back to the district based on the day's numbers is better than what it was back in November. So the issue with the black and white numbers, it comes down, when I evaluated it, it was based on 3 criteria essentially. The fees that they were going to charge from their underwriter service, the experience they have with Pennsylvania public school districts, and in Southwest Pennsylvania, and what relationship they have with us. Those were the three items that I looked at. Okay, when we merely look at the fees, it's basically the
I
underwriter.
cannot hear a word that you are saying either. I'm sorry, you're like talking, and I don't know if it's your mask, if it's the microphone, or what. But I don't know if I'm on.
I do not have my mask on. So.
Okay, now I can hear you much better.
Okay.
I understand the 3 things that you went on, but again, my analysis when I look at this, if I want to buy a car, and just because I have a relationship with a dealership that's close to me, if I want to buy the same car in Greensburg that's in West Newton, and there's a $5,000 difference, why wouldn't I want to go to the person in West Newton? And again, I'm not saying anything negative about who we deal with currently, but if they want our business, then they should be maybe more willing to negotiate and look at a lower price for us. Again, I'm just questioning this. Once we make and move forward with this, this is it. Another question I have on this one paper that you gave us, it's saying this OID/OIP for the bonds. Does anybody have any idea what that even means? And I'm looking at this and I Googled it and it's saying that it's something that they would sell at a cheaper rate. So are we losing money on some of these bonds or this bond?
We would not be
It's
losing.
saying $75,496 net, OID/OIP.
I'm not sure where you're looking at.
It was one of the forms that you gave us. And again, I might be the only one with all the questions. I mean, I'm just looking at this and I'm questioning, is this, even this bond that we are refinancing, okay, the 2016, what was this bond? Was this not the bond from 2011 that we're refinancing again? Is that correct?
It's very possible. Yeah, I believe it is.
So it's the same 6 million and some change that we're refinancing again.
I'm not sure I'm not sure what the principal value was back in 2011. I'd have to go back and look that up. I don't have that in front of me.
But Jim, we're not kicking the can down the road. All we're doing is lowering the interest rate. So
Correct.
to make it to the public, we're not, it's, even though this bond is before most of us were even on this board, all we're doing is getting a better interest rate than was previously done from 2011.
That is correct. And when you do this type of transaction, you have one or two options. The net savings that you get back from a lower interest rate, you can use, number one, to reduce your future debt service payments. Or number two, take the so-called cash up front, which this district typically does. It deposits the money into the capital funds and allows the district to do capital projects over a 3-year.
So what did we do with this bond money that we saved in 2011 when we refinanced it? So now we're at 16 and now we're going to refinance it again. And if you look at the numbers and you price it out, again, 2016, when you refinance it to 2021, I mean, there's over a $500,000 difference, but the numbers, again, on what you sent out on how, I mean, the numbers, I'm just questioning if it's something that
I'm not sure what document you're looking at, Ms. McClure.
Jim, I think I could make Nancy's question a little bit simpler for everybody to understand. She's basically asking when we refinance from every 4 or 5 years, the district's doing it plainly and simply to get a better interest rate if possible and getting cash back, but not kicking the can down the road. So
But you're not
in your
making any
mind-
headway on paying these off. How do I know if we don't price this out in a 10-year plan that we might not be saving more money on the interest? The money that we saved on the interest that way might be more money that we're saving now. I mean, I'm just saying there's could be some different options on this, is all I'm saying, but that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna
No,
say-
Nancy, I
waste
understand
time
what
on
you're
being-
saying. You're basically saying is if you're going to look at a 15-year loan compared to a 10-year loan, you know, is it better for the board and our taxpayers to look at a 10-year loan than a
instead of
15-year
yeah.
loan?
And how many more times can we refinance these? I would think these bonds are pretty much maxed out. You
Well,
can
I mean, when
refinance them so many times.
once you get down to 1.9, I don't really think you get any. There's really nowhere to go from there.
I
But
mean, what the heck is our credit rating on these bonds?
Our credit rating currently is an A-, and if we
Wow.
refund these bonds, we would have to go through another credit rating. But to answer your question about pricing these out, each one of these bonds that we talk about through the district, through our debt service, all have a payment schedule. So the payment schedule, I don't know if you're referring to 10 or 15 years out, that is all set in stone already. It's the fact that payment schedule you have, you're now going to pay a lower interest rate in future years on that by refunding.
But if you refinance a bond, you can change the amount of years that you're going to pay it back, can you not?
We can, but one of the stipulations that we've done in this one is to keep the debt service payment principles roughly the same without adding any future years onto it. So we're not extending the years of these bonds at all. They're still payable out to 10/1 of 2033, just like they were in 2016 when this issuance was taken out. It's the same number of years. What we're doing is over the course of the life of the bonds, we're paying them up at a lower interest rate, and we're taking either the cash up front or we can lower the payments down the road. I mean,
You can shorten the term also.
you could shorten the term if you would like, but that's going to take some negotiations. But that's where I would have to work with bond counsel and an underwriter to look at those options.
Jim, if we shortened the term though, the cash option up front would probably not be present or not as much, and then we use that cash option a lot to pay for a lot of the big projects that we just have, like roofs in the district. You can't go without roofs. So if we
I'm not
don't,
saying that we can't. I'm just making.
no, I'm just saying if we
financial
don't,
outlook of this
can I
district
finish?
is horrific.
I'm just saying if we don't do that, then at some point we would need to borrow money to pay for those roofs. So either way, we're costing ourselves money. If we don't take the cash up front and we need something huge or a large expense, we've got to get that money from somewhere. And
Well,
we would
here's the
have to
thing, you
look at a
can only
loan or
do it so
something.
many times. So my question to
Right.
Jim is, how many times have we refinanced these bonds? We can't keep doing this year after year, because what's going to happen is then you're going to have to get a loan and pay on top of the bonds more money doing a loan.
You can't do it year after year. You can only do it when the bonds become callable. And as I mentioned, the next time the board or the district to happen is October of 2022. That's when our next.
And we're not voting to do the refinance. We're not voting to say, yes, move forward with the refinance. We're just voting to approve who we're going to have as the underwriter. If we were to move forward on the refinance, that's another vote we'd have to take, correct?
Correct. We're going to have to re-advertise because we have to file certain paperwork. We did this previously, if you recall. We filed all the paperwork with the Department of Economic Development. You need to go through that process. There has to be an advertisement prior to the meeting. We did that, and the board felt that they wanted to go out and seek proposals to see if it was the best pricing. We did that, but we're at the next month's meeting, we'll have to come back with the advertisement before we can move forward. At that point, if whoever you pick for your underwriter will come back and give a proposal on what they believe with what the market is on that day that they come to talk to you, what the rates would be.
And thank you, Mr. Matta. I guess, Ms.
I
McLaren,
have no further
what
questions.
what else are you asking us to do other than what we've already done? And I want to be full disclosure to the public. You know, when we look strictly at the underwriter fee that's charged,
I'm just making sure that this is the best deal that the district can get. That's all I'm looking at. I'm looking at these numbers. I'm comparing, just making sure that the district, that we're aware that, you know, we're not paying any principal on this bond for the next 3 years. So we're really looking to get the quick cash, I guess, to put in our fund to be able to spend on however we're allocated to spend the money.
but let me correct you, because I'm looking at the debt service schedule right here. To answer your question, we're not paying on the principal over the next three years. I'm looking at the schedule right here. Our next payment on the series of 2016, if we refund it, we are going to pay $115,000 towards the principal on October 1st of 2021. So that'll be part of our next year's budget.
Okay.
Okay, at this point, did we have a motion, Dr. Sarden, in a second?
Yes, we did.
Motion by
We
Harvey,
did.
second by Ulander. And
Ulander.
Okay, let's do a roll call on this.
Okay, which ones are you doing through again? I'm sorry.
Motion to approve Bowen and Scattergood. And we've had a motion and a second, and we're going to do a roll call vote.
Beach,
Yes.
Harvey, yes. McLaren,
No.
Nogi,
Yes.
Novacek,
Yes.
Ulander,
Yes.
Philippos.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay.
oh, sorry, I didn't move the screen down. I'm sorry, Jeremy.
No problem.
Hang on. There we go.
Okay. Motion to approve option 2 in order to satisfy the port's petroleum fuel contract for the 2021 school year as agreed upon through the Westmoreland Intermediate Joint Purchasing Consortium Board. I need a motion.
Novacek.
Motion by Novacek, a second.
Harvey,
Harvey, any board questions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Under item 9, I need a nomination of someone on the board to serve as treasurer of the Yawk School Board until the reorg meeting of December 2021.
I'll nominate Amy Ulander.
I'll second.
Any other board nominations? If only one nomination, I request a motion to close nominations.
Harvey,
Nogi.
Motion by Harvey, second by Nogi. Any board questions? All in favor to close the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to nominate Amy Ulander to serve as treasurer for till December 2021. I need a motion.
So moved, Nogi.
Motion by Nogi, a second.
Novacek.
Second by Novacek. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Amy.
Thank you.
I'm under item 10, motion to rescind advertising for superintendent. I need a motion.
Harvey,
Motion by Harvey, a second.
Ulander.
Second.
Second by Ulander. Any board questions? Roll call vote.
Bache,
Yes.
Bache, okay, Harvey,
Yes.
yes, McLaren,
No.
Nogi,
Yes.
Novacek,
No.
Ulander,
Yes.
Philippos.
No.
Motion carries 4-3.
Let's see what's next. Okay, board reports, WIU 7 Legislative Council, Mr. Kenders is out. CWCTC, that committee person will be selected next month. PSBA, Sue?
Nothing to report other than we all get the emails and things from PSBA, so nothing new to report from those.
Okay, thank you. Anything under old business?
I do have one thing that I just wanted to comment on that I didn't get the opportunity at the beginning of the meeting when we talked about Sandy. I did want to make a comment about Mrs. Dahl. I had the honor and the privilege of working with Sandy for the past year, and I can tell you she will be terribly missed as a board member. Her compassion and dedication to kids over the course of my last 10 years has been fantastic. Whether she's been on the board or a part of community, she always did it for the kids. She loved kids, and as a member of this board, she always asked good questions and was thoughtful about the decisions and the votes that she took. So with that being said, I didn't get to say something at the beginning of the meeting. I do want to send my condolences to her family. I can tell you on a district perspective and from the district end, we will sorely miss her here at York School District.
Amen.
Yep, amen to that. Any other comments? Anything under old business? Anything under new business?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I would like to congratulate Jamal Marbale. He just joined the elite group of scoring 1,000 points in basketball. He's with Ben McCauley, Ben Hoffer, Randy Nesbitt, and Mike Gonda. So congrats to you, Jamal, on scoring 1,000 points.
That's great. Congratulations. That's an elite group.
Congrats. I agree.
Solicitors report.
I have no report for public session, Mr. President, but I would like to extend my sympathies to the Dahl family. Working with Mrs. Dahl the time that she was on the board was a pleasure.
Gary, on that, can we do that motion under solicitor's report? Can we do that motion to authorize KLH?
Yes. I would need a motion to approve or authorizing the KLH engineers to proceed with the construction of and it's to prepare bids and so forth on the sewage project for the middle school. So they will be preparing documents and providing them to the district. The board will have to take additional actions in the future before any type of projects are awarded. This would only permit them to start moving forward with preparing all the documents.
So I need a motion to approve KLH Engineering to proceed with construction to prepare bids on the sewage project for the York Middle School. I need a motion.
McLaren.
Motion by McLaren, a second.
Novacek.
Second by Novacek. Any board questions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Citizens' comments?
So the board received several public comments for this evening. I believe there was 12 on different topics. So how would the board like to proceed with those public comments?
Question,
Matt,
those
I think
comments
we
allowed to
would-
be posted on the website?
Say that again, Nancy.
Are all those letters able to be posted on the website?
They, Ms. McLaren, all public comments should be made part of the record. So they should be attached to the board minutes moving
Oh, okay.
forward. Okay.
I was just asking.
I had a discussion with the superintendent. She informed me that we have a policy here in the district that if someone requires them to be read into the record, that to take place. I was unaware of that. So if that is the case, Janet, I guess that if any of those people ask for them to be read, you'd need to do that. Normally, some districts are not doing that. They are attaching them to both the agenda and to the minutes afterwards. But if we have that requirement, then we should follow up.
Mr. Matt, I believe the board policy is one person has 3 minutes when we're in public session with a maximum of 15 minutes per topic.
That's
And
correct.
I believe that the whole board would agree that we want to follow that. We want to follow that policy.
We in a number of the districts during the COVID, and I thought that we had passed this as well. I may be incorrect, that we were limiting their public comment written to 500 words, figuring that was about the time frame. But in this case, you know, if there's people that are requesting for them, if the superintendent would like to do that, that's fine. I believe as long as they're attached to the record, it's suffice. But if we would like to read those this evening, that's up to the board.
So that is a board decision, Mr. Philippos, on how you would like to proceed.
I think we will proceed following our rules of order, and the rules will be, we will limit one topic per 15 minutes, and we can attach all the comments at the end of our meeting. So I believe all the board members have read the comments prior to the meeting, but I think it's fair that we go through some of these comments from the public. And I believe there were two things. Comments about the superintendent, and I believe there were comments about the COVID-19 opening and closing of schools. So I think it's best that we listen to public comment, and but I think as a board, we want to limit our time as well. And I think the board would agree 15 minutes per each topic is, I think, suffice to cover all the public comments. If anybody on the board wants to extend beyond that, that's they can go on record as saying such.
So with that request, Mr. President, and knowing that there's 12 different comments, how would you like us to proceed with regard to order and who gets read and who doesn't?
Mr. Matta, can you provide any type of suggestion to the board?
I would think that in 15 minutes, you can probably read pretty much all of them. So split them into the two categories, what they are, and just start reading, Dr. Storden.
So I'm the one that is supposed to read the public comment?
Yeah, I would think that would be better.
Okay. So Mr. Matta, how do you want me to start? Most recent received, the first received, last received? Or it doesn't matter?
I would start with the first received.
Okay, on to Lynn Birch, sent a public comment period in for January 19, 2021, January 8th at 10:32 a.m. On to Lynn Birch, 2214 2nd Street, Wino. This letter is for comment period 2 to be read at the end of the meeting for items not pertaining to the agenda. My husband and I have lived in the Yawk School District for 12 years now. We love it. We love the strong community feel, the love for country and freedom, and the strong family connections. We love that we enjoy a more simple way of life and yet have a fabulous, one of the best in PA school districts. However, that was not always the case. 10 years ago, one of the best decisions was made that has improved not only our school district, but also the values of our homes. People actually want to move to Yawk because of our schools. A personal realtor friend has shared with me how much value of Yacht Homes has increased in the last 10 years, and how quickly they sell. That is not a coincidence. That decision was to hire Dr. Sarn as our superintendent. I have experienced knowing Dr. Sarn as a community member for 5 years and have experienced being on staff at the school for 5. I can honestly say how much I appreciated her before is nothing compared to how much I appreciate her now. I have an inside look of how things actually run and why our school district is so great now. Dr. Sarn has created a well-functioning body of staff, students, and community members, and if you remove that head, the rest of the body will die. She is the reason Yawk is as great as it is. Anything great starts from the top down. We cannot deny, as we look at the current state of our nation, that what happens at the top trickles down and affects us all, whether for good or bad. Why would we look for another superintendent when we already have the best? Why would we risk killing off the rest of the things that make Yawk great? I hate the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. No, the grass is greener where you water it. We need the support and amazing superintendent we already have. How do you expect to get a superintendent at the level we already have for less money? Here's the to keep things in perspective. The Yacht superintendent salary, $157,948 with 14 years experience, oversees 2,000 students. Bell Vernon superintendent salary, $155,982 with less than 1 year of experience, about the same amount of students. Side note, currently ranked below Yacht. Mount Pleasant superintendent and assistant superintendent salary, $215,000 total, same amount of students in Yacht, and they are also currently ranked below us. Menneson superintendent salary, $106,000 with 789 students. And principals at each level, and they are ranked below us. You get what you pay for, and I'm thankful we already have the best. Here's a list of some things you may not be aware of that Dr. Sarn did or still currently does. In her 10 years as superintendent, Yawk School District went from the bottom half in the state of PA to the top 20%. Reading proficiency improved from 59 to 79% over the past 10 years. Math proficiency improved from 47 to 74% over the past 10 years. The Yawk graduation rate is now greater than 95%. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette ranked Yawk School District as the top workplace 6 years in a row. She changed and updated the curriculum in the school so our students would be competitive with the best. She has created multiple committees, safety, drug symposium, and COVID-19 health coordinator. The safety committee meets monthly with Dr. Sarn to discuss any safety issues or improvements needed. The drug symposium that occurs yearly has dramatically helped local families in our community with knowing how to deal with the drug issues and has increased awareness and prevention. Has done a fantastic job as COVID-19 health coordinator to deal with these unprecedented times. She has supported and encouraged the science fair at the middle school, which has been a huge success and has grown each year. She attends almost every school-related event, elementary, middle, and high school during or after school hours, including sporting events. She knows the staff and many community members by name. She responds to our community and staff emails and phone calls, no matter the difficult the situation may be. She is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. She has interviewed each staff member, no matter their position, to ask how she could improve things in the district and improve herself. She personally delivers a gift from the district to each staff member every Christmas. She frequently sends encouraging emails to all the staff. If you ask any student in this district who is our superintendent, they all know her name and what she looks like because she is physically present and involved. She interacts and visits students in their classroom and shares words of encouragement and wisdom. She pays for and eats pizza with the students as a special reward for a job well done. She attends different field trips as a staff chaperone, and the students love it. She sends handwritten notes and laminated news clippings to every student that is featured in the newspaper, and she personally donates to student scholarships each year. I could continue on, however, I believe this is enough to show why Dr. Sarn has played such a huge role in making Yawk so great and why my family is so thankful to live here. I humbly ask that you reconsider the vote that was cast during the December board meeting and vote to renew Dr. Sarn's current contract. I appreciate you taking the time to read my letter, and I genuinely recognize the importance of your role as board members. Gary, should I stay on subject or just go through them?
I would stay on subject.
Okay.
And maybe, Janet, that was 4.5 minutes, a little bit of like 4 minutes and 45 seconds. If you just want to read, I don't know how many more you have on this subject, but if you want to just do 3 minutes for each one to make sure you at least get the people's gist of it out there.
All right, well, why don't you time me and give me a clue, please? Would you do that? Okay. Did Gary say anything? You go with that, Gary? All right, Jim, you want to time you 3 minutes, please? All right, next one, Elizabeth DeVito, 1087 Hoffman Road, Smithton, PA. Letter for comment period 2 to be read at the end of the meeting for items not pertaining to the agenda. My husband and I decided to build a house and set our roots down in Smithton and become part of the Yawk School District in March of 2010. We have 2 children that are in 3rd and 6th grade. We love our community and our district. I have had the privilege of meeting Dr. Sarden during many school occasions throughout the 7 years since my son started kindergarten in August of 14. My family comes from a long line of teachers, a vice principal, a principal, and a professor of a college. I understand how the superintendent role works and have seen this in many other school districts and in several states. I want to say I never met a superintendent that is more personal as Dr. Sarden. When she sees my children, she greets them and talks to them on their level and asks them how they are. She is a real down-to-earth person who represents our school district in a personal way. I remember meeting Dr. Sarden for the first time during kindergarten orientation, and guess what she was doing? She was face painting the children's faces. I thought she was a volunteer parent or teacher and had no idea she was the Yawk School District Superintendent. I was impressed. I was able to sit at a table with Dr. Sarden at several school meetings I attended over the years. I sat twice for the Parent Advisory Committee for Title I planning. I also attended kindergarten readiness meeting that was a grant through the United Way 2 separate years. Dr. Sarden is dedicated superintendent and witnessed this in both professional and personal ways. Why fix something that isn't broken? So money is more important than the well-being of our children. We have a very strong superintendent who loves this district and the children who attend our schools. Dr. Sarden looks up to her school staff and children. She makes important decisions day to day about the educational programs, spending, staff, and facilities. She works with school leaders and principals to serve the needs of students and meet district goals to achieve best results. I believe that Dr. Sarden is a great superintendent and is guided by what is best for students. We need to renew the contract, keep the school district going in the right direction, and support the superintendent we already have. Did you know that 10 years ago, our school district was in the bottom half of the state in PA, or now we are in the top 20%. Thanks to Dr. Sarden for leadership and ability to get our school scores in the top 20%. In the last 10 years as a school district, we have improved our reading and math scores. Our graduation rate is now 95%. Our curriculum has changed to let our students be able to compete with the best. This has occurred in the last 10 years. These are only facts about our school district. I personally thank Dr. Sarden for being an outstanding listener. She has taken my viewpoints and other parents' viewpoints and has made the decision she could. I was unsure how the coronavirus would affect my children and their learning. I emailed Dr. Sarden with my concerns back in April of 2020, and she emailed me back and responded immediately to my concerns as a parent. Thomas calls and emails during that time to new staff and parents. I'm sure she has lost many hours of sleep at night trying to figure out during this pandemic how to best keep everyone safe and be able to educate our students effectively. I have heard that Yawk School Board is concerned about her salary. I'm assuming they feel an annual salary. Her job as a superintendent is 24/7. That is her #1 commitment working for the school district. I believe she should be compensated for her job with her current salary. She is the top executive of the school district. Why would you even consider letting a person go of this caliber that has been beneficial to our children because of politics and a chance to save a few dollars? Thank you for your time, Elizabeth DeVito. Public comment, Shannon. Read this for comment period 2. You want to reset that? Mm-hmm. January 13th, Yawk School District School Board. Hello, my name is Shannon Bigby, and I'm a mother of 2 children who attend the high school and middle school in the Yawk School District. Over the last 11 years of their education, I've always respected the staff and administration of the school district, even if I disagreed with something. Having a daughter with an IEP and a son who plays sports, I have witnessed different aspects of education. And in both of those areas, I have always observed how involved Dr. Sarden has been with the students. That is why I was shocked and honestly appalled by the fact that her contract was not renewed without explanation. In the midst of a health crisis, when tough decisions have to be made, I truly don't believe now is the time to make changes, especially when Dr. Sarden has proven her capability as a valuable leader over the years. From a parent's perspective, I truly believe Dr. Sarden has the students' best interest at heart when making the necessary decisions regarding our children and their education. I respectfully ask that the Yawk School Board School District hear the voice of this parent and keep Dr. Sarden as our school district superintendent. Humbly submitted, Shannon Bibby. Reset. Mm-hmm. The next letter is from Dana C. Romano, 268 Kunkel River, A. We request that this letter be read at the January 19th school board meeting. As residents, taxpayers, and voters in the Yawk School District, we entrust the decisions regarding the district to the elected school board members. In the last election, we strongly supported 3 of the 4 candidates running for school board, anticipating that those 3, along with the others currently serving, would do what is in the best interest of our district, community, and most importantly, the children. That was why when news came out in December 2020 that the school board voted to not renew the contract of current superintendent Dr. Sarden, we immediately started to pay much closer attention to the district's decisions. As social media blew up with the news that her contract wasn't renewed, all kinds of rumors started circulating. Rumors including that school board members were using their position of power to push their personal agendas and vendettas, to Dr. Sarden being paid too much, to her personally being blamed for some of the most tragic events that have happened in the district prior to her even becoming superintendent. These statements all went against everything we had seen with regards to the interactions that we have had with Dr. Sarden and the school board members, many of which are personal friends. So instead of being led by propaganda, a few concerned citizens, including us, started to research and dig deeper to share the facts. After doing the research, complete with references back to our sources, we decided to share the facts by launching the Save Dr. Superintendent, Dr. Janet Sarden, Know the Facts petition on Friday, December 11th. The petition signatures and comments are attached to this document. We would have been happy with 500 signatures in total, but achieved the goal by the end of the first day. We hit 1,000 signatures by the end of the weekend. Currently, this petition has 1,244 signatures. While the petition is public and has been shared 182 times and viewed by 17,466 people, zip codes show that over 430 plus of those signatures are directly from school district residents. Along with these signatures are comments from petitioner signers. Here are the most notable. Scott Boardtree. I live in Ohio, Powell. My company hires graduates from Yawk. This superintendent works for her students, medical Townsend Schools students. Virgilio Hermany. Dr. Sarden has done an amazing job in this district. A lot of complaints come from her salary, but people fail to realize what she brings to our district. Other districts have assistant superintendents. We do not. Dr. Sarden has worked with their staff and they have the anti-drug symposiums, which is ever so important in these trying times. Getting rid of the superintendent because she didn't approve the trap team is extremely childish and lacks the understanding of the bigger picture. Firing Dr. Sarden would be a huge mistake. All of the districts in the area have struggled with back-to-school plans. Under Dr. Sarden's guidance and direction, Yawk has successfully maintained a solid plan, unlike other districts that have constant changes that affect children's emotional well-being and obviously academics overall.
That's 3 minutes, Janet.
Thank you. All right.
You have that's been about 12 and a half minutes on this topic.
Okay. Next one, Ted Charletta. Dear Yawk School Board members, I am writing so that my opinion may be considered as part of your decision to not renew Dr. Sarden's contract. I believe that your decision is short-sighted and will negatively impact my son as well as the other children of the Yawk School District. It is my opinion that Dr. Sarden has worked tirelessly during this pandemic to clearly communicate decisions with the community while keeping the best interest of the children of our district in mind. I know there have been comments made regarding her Dr. Sarden's tact and deal with others and was overpaid. I would like to add that over the years, I've had numerous conversations with Dr. Sarden, though not all have been resolved in my children's favor. Dr. Sarden was always honest, upfront, and respectful. As for her salary as a taxpayer, I'd rather pay for Dr. Sarden's experience as above average superintendent than pay several $1,000s for a less experienced, mediocre superintendent. In closing, I'd ask the school board reconsider renewing Dr. Sarden's contract. Such a renewal will aid in providing the district with experienced leadership and consistent messaging during these trying times, especially Ted Charletta. Okay. One more, Gary, or no?
You have about a minute.
Okay. Sarah Zontek would be the next one. Good evening. I am writing this email to voice my support for Dr. Sarden as a parent of a student in the district and a district employee as a substitute teacher. I strongly urge you to reconsider your position regarding Dr. Sarden. I have seen firsthand Dr. Sarden's leadership, work ethic, professionalism, passion, and leadership in my years as both a parent and an employee of the district. She is a strong leader and has high expectations of her administrative team and staff. I've worked in every single district in the area, and I can tell you York excels in many areas. Other districts should look to York as an example. I am proud to say I live and work in the York School District. Is Dr. Sarden tough? Yes. She has to be tough. She is responsible for keeping our students safe, ensuring they receive a quality education. She demands respect as she should. This does not make her a poor superintendent. Dr. Sarden is an expert in the field, and we need to trust her decision-making. Letting her go simply based on her income is ridiculous. She deserves what she's paid. I have no idea who the superintendent was when I was in school. Both of my kids know exactly who she is and said she has visited their classes many times and attended their events. As an employee, I have been in the trenches with Dr. Sarden. All of her staff is trained in active shooter training. Not many districts can say that. I have been in the buildings when we were without water. I've been in the buildings when 911 was called. I've been in the buildings when these and other emergencies were handled calmly, quickly, and professionally. All of this is a direct result of Dr. Sarden's leadership and training of her staff. I feel confident sending my children to school because I know she cares and I know she can handle whatever is thrown at her that day. Dr. Sarden literally makes life-altering decisions every day.
Janet, I let that, just for the boards where I let it go over the 15 minutes just to finish those comments. I'd like the public to be aware that the school board is appreciative of all of their public comments and their input. By direction of my office, I have instructed the board, as we do for all issues with personnel, not to respond to any items regarding any personnel actions within the district. So the board will not be responding publicly to any of the comments, questions, or the petition that they have received. If you want to start the other item to read those.
So we have two other items. We have one about opening a school and one about closing of school. So that's two different categories. The first one, Dear York School Board, I know you will be hearing from a number of parents who would like to see the schools reopened for live instruction. I'm writing to express my support for continued virtual instruction. I know that at-home learning is a struggle for many, but the benefits of a reduced community transmission, especially as we encounter the new, more contagious strains, outweigh those strains. Our district has done an excellent job of making hard choices to keep our students safe. I hope you continue to do so. Vaccinations for educators and staff are right around the corner. Please consider holding off until our staff is safe. If full virtual is eliminated, I do hope you'll continue the virtual recorded option. It has been working very well for my kindergarten student. She is learning to read, she's at home, and she's safe, and that's all I can ask. Thank you for your work making the right choices for our district. And then I have a set of comments here with regard to virtual staying, reopening schools. First one, Dear school board members, I am the mother of a student at H.W. Good. I understand that things are difficult due to the pandemic, and I have been very pleased with the way the district and namely the supervisor have dealt with it and communicated with parents. My daughter was attending face-to-face school, and I was so impressed with how H.W. Good was handling the situation. I was not surprised that the district had to switch to virtual learning when it did, but I have been hopeful that we would follow the state recommendations updated on January 7, 2021, that elementary schools could reopen for the second semester. As I listened to the message last night, I felt that it was insinuating a deficiency in staff. It was also noted that there is a concern that children would become carriers. Considering that the district has offered virtual learning options, I feel that this is a family decision to make. I understand and respect the concern for educators and staff. With that in mind, is it safe to say the elementary schools will not reopen until the educators and staff are vaccinated? Can the district please consider investing in the development of online dashboard tools to help inform us of what is going on within our district? If the district can provide comprehensive data at a minimum, is it possible for the district to post the number of educators, staff, and students in each building that currently make a positive case of COVID-19? I feel like this will help us to better understand the district's decision-making process. I appreciate your efforts to help to keep the members of our school community safe. Next one, Larissa Hoffman. York School Board members, I am a parent of 3 children in H.W. Good Elementary School. Last week, I emailed Dr. Sarden and the school board my concerns about keeping our children in full virtual learning. In light of the January 18th phone call concerning the decision to keep Yawk School District in full virtual learning, I have continued questions and concerns. As a parent, the only information received is from the weekly phone calls from Dr. Sarton. These phone calls leave a lot of questions unanswered. Is it possible to provide more information to the families in Yawk School District? The lack of information, unanswered questions causes frustration and makes it difficult to continue to be patient and understanding of the school board's most recent decision, especially in the light of the most recent CDC and PDE recommendations. Providing more information will help parents and families of Yawk School District to understand and be patient with the school board's decision. The taxpaying families of YSD deserve to be given as much information as possible during this uncertain time. Many of the phone calls state there continues to be staff and faculty testing positive and or quarantined. However, no concrete numbers are given. Following information would be appreciated. The exact number of staff and faculty and students testing positive in each building, the buildings that cannot open because of the number of cases reported, and the exact number of staff and faculty quarantining in each building. Also, most recently, a phone call mentioned a lack of personnel is one of the reasons YSD is staying in full virtual learning. Many parents are not aware that lack of personnel could be helped by becoming an emergency substitute teacher. Is it possible for YSD to advertise the need for emergency substitute teachers to help get our students back in school? Getting parents or anyone qualified to substitute is a concrete way to get our students back in the classroom. Thank you for your time, Larissa Hoffman. Next one, Michelle and Sean Smith. Good evening, school board members. We are the parents of 3 kids in Yawk School District, 2 in the middle school and 1 at HW Good. Yawk did a good job keeping these kids safe with in-person learning at the beginning of the year. We were very disappointed to hear from the all-call on January 18th that we were not returning to school. Could you please share the number of staff and the number of kids in each building that currently have a positive case of COVID? Also the number of staff and the number of kids in each building that are quarantined due to COVID. In the future, can this information be shared on every all-call, or can this information be communicated in an online dashboard? The all-call from January 18th mentioned a great deal about vaccinations. However, there is no public timeline for phase 1B to get vaccinated, and there is a 3 to 4 week time frame in between shots. Does vaccinations have any effect on the decision to reopen schools? Every all-call has mentioned that not only the county, but also our surrounding communities are in substantial ratings. The county numbers are on the PA Department of Health. Can you provide the numbers for our communities in the school district? The all-call from November 2nd stated that we would only require 1 week of moderate rating. This was during the first all-virtual stint of learning. Now the all-call states that we require 2. What allowed the change last time and what required the change back to the original list time. Thank you for your time, Michelle and Sean Smith. Next one, and final one on the topic of schools. Patrick Knepp, 308 Shana Road. My name is Patrick Knepp and I live at 308 Shana Road in Sewickley Township. My daughter Lucy Knepp is currently in 5th grade. I would like to take this time to address the members of the school board regarding the safety and well-being of our children in the school district. I do not write this letter to argue a certain point or insult any board member's intellect. I write this to ask questions and consider opening Yawk schools to the methods of learning prior to this current district closing, which offered in-person, virtual, and virtual recording. We all have been held captive by this global pandemic in some form. Many people who know someone who has either become ill or succumbed to the virus. Empirical data shows most of the people who have died with the virus are elderly, have comorbidity, or both. However, many of us may know a majority of people have recovered without serious health conditions. One group that seems to be minimally fazed by the virus is our youth. This from the Journal of American Medicine Association, December 2020. End quote. For children and youth, the relative risk of COVID-19 death is lower still. A joint report from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association notes that as of December 3rd, 154 children, more than 1.4 million diagnosed with COVID-19 have died. Although children can serve as a vector for illness, school transmission rates have not been as high as initially feared in communities with low background rates. All these emergency data have recently prompted the Center for Disease Control to recommend the schools should be the last to close and the first to reopen. I am the first to say one child dying from COVID-19 is too many, but according to your own Center for Disease Control, 37 to 188 children die annually from influenza/flu. There were 359 children killed by H1N1 in 2009. Did schools shut down then? Do we shut schools down when an outbreak of the flu happens? I think many can agree the elected and appointed officials of our state are not void of criticism in the recommendation, mandates, and vaccine rollout. I understand Pennsylvania's recommendation on educating our children in regards to COVID-19, but the scientific data does not bear out not having in-person instruction, but have the recommendations been updated in relation to the latest statistics. I also understand Dr. Sarden operating under the state's recommendations, but this is only a recommendation. The school board can still vote to open the district. I know there are also litigious reasons being considered, but don't parents release some liability when picking in-person instruction? How can the district allow sports to continue, but not in-person instruction? There is no liability for athletes, question mark. The issue here is the growing evidence of how detrimental closing schools and having virtual learning is for our children. People under 18 years of age are not seen as transmitters of the disease or at risk. However, the long-term psychological effects produced by our actions in response to this virus may be another story. We adults may be doing more harm than good when it comes to closing schools and conducting education through virtual learning. It may also be eroding our community through a loss of earning potential and additional psychological stressors associated with COVID-19, which include children and parents who are experiencing anxiety and or depression. There are government studies showing the rise in drug abuse and alcoholism. I attach this link from the MedPage Today, authored by Vladimir Kogan and Vinay Prasad, explaining this thoroughly. Lastly, I watched my daughter sit at her Chromebook for virtual learning and listen to her classes. I have heard her teachers call students numerous times to only be ignored or answered when called upon after a long pause. I have been told many kids get online to play video games, TikTok, texting, or other digital activities during the instruction. This is a huge challenge for our teachers and solidifies behavior that may transfer to the classroom when our children come back to learning through in-person instruction. And there's a little bit more, but we're over the 3 minutes. And that is all for public comment.
I need a motion to adjourn. The time is 9:58.
Ulander.
Motion by Ulander, a second.
Nogi.
Nogi, any questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good night and be safe all.
See you, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.